Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
Hello there, and welcome to the Empire of the Suns podcast. My name is Kellan Olson, joined as always by Kevin Zimmerman. What's up, man?
When was the last time we talked about a lottery pick on this show regarding the Phoenix Suns? I actually don't know.
Is it 2020? It's got to be 2020.
Jalen Smith.
I think it is indeed 2020.
Tyrese Halliburton. The Tyrese Halliburton pod. That was a while ago.
Oh man, I'm still messed up about that.
I know.
I can't stand that happened, especially the way he started the game. He was awesome. Okay. So, if you're here looking for draft coverage, I think what happened is Kevin got traded, and a lot of people were like, ooh, the draft. And also, it's draft week, so ooh, the draft. If you want some more in-depth stuff on pick number 29, you can go back 2 episodes, not the Kevin one, but the one before that, and we went pretty deep on some of the options around there. We'll bring them up again here on the end of the episode. You and I will mention random guys in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that we love, but obviously the majority of our focus today is going to be on the number 10 pick. Full transparency, I'm moderately prepared for this, but obviously with the dynamic of the process and how late we had to wait until, I would have liked a couple more weeks to really dive into all these guys. So I'm gonna set that brief aside, not as like as an asterisk if like we get these observations wrong or we like look back and like we were dead wrong about it. I'm not saying it in that kind of way. I'm saying that if we're not quite on the same page as we should be with some of these guys that some of our listeners might know better than us, feel free to let us know.
Admittedly crammed. Lots of yesterday.
Crammed for sure. We've crammed before in the past, but this is a different kind of cram where it's not just like some random pick. It's the number 10 pick, and that's where we can start. It's something that we've hit on a ton over the last couple of months, but the idea of trading Kevin for a lottery pick in this year's draft and how, if you're not familiar with their first-round picks, they have a lot in the next couple of years, but there is a 5% chance that one of them does not land in the top 20. That one of them is inside the top 20. The majority of them are going to be, I would guess all of them are going to be in the 20s because of how they're protected and how they're swapped and all that kind of stuff. So that obviously hinders your ability to get another star. Like it could be Devin Booker and a bunch of guys, but even if you want to do Indiana and look at them and be like, they've got no quote unquote superstar. I mean, Pascal Siakam is very, 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 very good at basketball. Halliburton is very, very good at basketball, and they've got like 5, 6, 7 really, really good players. So I want to say that the main goal, I think, with number 10 should be hitting on a ceiling as high as possible. And I think something you and I are going to talk about as a philosophy when we go through some of these players is how much is risk worth it and how much is fit worth it. Because you could take Yegor Demin out of BYU, and he could be out of the league within 4 to 5 years. Like there's some Poku similarities there for sure. Pokuševski from Oklahoma City a couple of years ago. You could take him and he could be out of the league, or he could be an all-NBA guy. Like I really feel like the gap between his floor and his ceiling is that big, and we can talk about sort of the benefits to having that approach, and also can they afford, it can be flipped where like can they afford to even whiff on this pick? Should they just go the safe route? Should they take someone with a pretty high floor like Carter Bryant or I guess Cedric Coward at this spot? Colin Murray-Boyles is someone who has a relatively high floor, I would say, for what he does on the floor, but all of that is dependent on how you use him. We'll get into that a little bit later. But where are you at with how they need to use this pick? Because you've been reading my stuff. You've been listening to me talk about this for a while. I think they just need to swing big and go for upside.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of validity to that, and it is kind of like you're measuring. That's the hard part. I can't answer it very well because you are measuring the floor. Like there are some guys we will talk about in a sec that have so low of floors that I'm just like frightened out of my head they're gonna do it, and they also have the highest ceilings. I will talk about Derek Queen in that respect up here in a sec. And also I think we, again, limited how much I've watched some of these guys, but I think we will disagree on some of the guys who have really high ceilings, how high their floors are, and do we think they're stars, or do we think, hey, that's a safe pick, that's fine, but I don't know if you're going to get an all-star caliber player out of that. So I think that's the most interesting part of this is the risk factor when you need to hit, when you also cannot fail either. Like, you need a rotation player out of this at the end of the day. And if they're not, even if they're a sixth man for the rest of their career on a good team, that's fine, I think. But is it fine in the context of this team? Right now, it doesn't look like it, but you never know. A couple of years down the road, they're just a, number 4, number 5 best player on a team.
So the 2023 draft, I think, is a good one to pull from, and I'll pull up one or two more here. But again, thinking about who the players were before the draft, and maybe you can think about who they are after the draft as well. But you look at what we're typically used to. So Taylor Hendricks goes 9, Swiss Army knife, 3-and-D-ish kind of 4-man. Kaysen Wallace, who has shown his potential, but would you say he's got all-star games in his future? Not really. Jet Howard was more of like that blind potential swing for sure. Derek Lively was the raw, typical center that we see. There are 2 or 3 in this range as well that we'll talk about. Grady Dick, the skill set we're used to seeing in this range. Jordan Hawkins, like Kobe Buffkin, Keontae George, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Brandon Pajemski. Like, we kind of knew already the players that those guys were and like the limits to the players that they were, and I just don't think those limits exist as much for most of the guys in this range. I've made the claim before, and I'll say it again. I think there's a non-zero chance that the best player in the draft is picked 9 through 18, and I think that there is like a 75% chance that one of the 3 best players in this draft is picked like 9 through 18, 9 through 20, amongst this group of like dozen guys we're talking about.
Wait, what did you say again? Not counting Cooper?
Not counting... Now, counting Cooper. So I would say, like, if Cooper is one of the top 3 players in this class, then I think there will be one more somewhere else, or they'll both be in this range. But I think that there's a very good chance that one of these guys is going to defy the expectation of where they're slotted, just because it's too many high upside guys for one guy not to hit.
Yeah. But I think the 23 draft is a good one because, like, all those guys you mentioned were in this range and still questions about what they're going to do. Like, a lot of those guys aren't contributing much or aren't contributing on winning teams. So, yeah, you want to get into it? Oh, trade as we go here. The New Orleans Pelicans are trading C.J. McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick to the Washington Wizards for Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey. Oh...
It's McCollum, Olynyk, and a future second from the Pelicans going to the Wizards for Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and number 40. I am guessing...
There goes your dreamers who thought Bradley Beal was going back there. Okay.
Based on the dynamic of this trade, I would guess that that's a cost-cutting move for New Orleans. I tweeted this... by the way, like, the Celtics getting praised for the Simons deal when they were cutting money. I understand that Holiday wasn't his best last year, but they made that trade just to save money, and they're the ones getting praised for it, which is always weird.
Man.
Every trade, just about every trade that we're going to see, some form of motivation behind it is going to be money, whether it is a little bit, like I think Houston, one of the benefits they saw was freeing up the money that Green and Brooks were making that they probably didn't want to pay them anymore and pay them in the future, even if Brooks only has 2 years left, Green has 3 years left, to the point where the Celtics, 3 years left on Drew's deal, they're fully moving him. Simon's on expiring, we'll get him in our system. And hey, if the year's not going super great, we can flip him at the deadline. If he turns out great, whatever. I'm sure that's the thinking there with him. And he's not even like a fit for them at all because they just have all 2-way players and he's a 1-way player.
You get some scoring punch, I guess, for this year if you do keep him. I mean, people were speculating he could be on the move before the season starts already. But anyway, well, that's fun. Back to draft, sorry.
Yeah, back to draft. Sure, let's go back to draft. Okay, well, where we should start is Cooper's going 1. Mm-hmm. Dylan Harper's going 2. We can end the pod by talking about those guys if you want. We shouldn't at the top, but we can talk about them if you want.
Yeah.
And then somewhere, I believe, in the next 7 picks is going to be Ace Bailey out of Rutgers, VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Con Knipple, Kaman Malawach are going to be 7 of the first 8 or 9 picks. I feel very confident that none of those guys are going to fall to 10. Obviously, Malawach for what the Suns are targeting and what they could use, and we're talking about like upside swings. I think that he's perfect. If there was a guy for them to trade up a couple of spots to try and go after, I'm fine with that, actually. I know that keep every pick, build for the future, all this kind of stuff, but we're talking about picks in the 20s. So if you can give up the 2028 or 2029 pick, the thing is it's so protected that you know it's not really going to burn you as much. So if some team just wants to pick up a future asset and doesn't love Malawach or doesn't have room for him at 7 or 8 or 9, and you move up a couple of spots to go get him, I'm completely fine with that thinking. He's the one guy out of that group that makes... I love Knipple.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine on Edgecombe, fine on Trey Johnson. I don't think Ace Bailey is worth the risk not with everything going on and like the preconceived notions that come with him being the guy who's not going to work out everything, but his skill set is just like so explosive and volatile is the good word.
That's a good one.
That I'll go. So after that, I believe I had the list at 13 guys that I believe would make sense at 10.
Yeah.
Or under consideration at 10. The only guy that I don't really have down here that's ranked around here is Liam McNeely out of UConn, just because he's the most like 17th pick in the draft that I've ever seen, where it's just like he is what he is, shooter, movement stuff, smart player, the Corey Kispert model, the like Jordan Hawkins is another good example, another UConn player where it's like different height, different kind of shooting skill set, but like it's a similar kind of deal where he's limited in other range.
I will say real quick, so I rounded up mock drafts starting basically after the KD trade. There are 11 different guys that people have at the number 10 pick, and I don't know if I missed a Danny Wolf, if he was in any mocks to the Suns. He was not in there.
We'll talk about him.
It's down to 9 if I include there's one person who thinks Malawach falls. There's one person who thinks Con Knipple falls to the Suns. So there's 9 if we take a composite of mock drafts across the web who have different guys. Like there's that big of a range, yes.
I am ready to be wrong on that, but I just think that we've seen how NBA teams think, and like Malawach's raw physical tools.
Yeah.
Teams just do not let that thing kind of slip. And then Knipple, same, like all the gamer stuff that he does, like teams just head over heels.
Yeah.
For that kind of stuff. I'm trying to see Shams' reasoning for this trade happening. Basically, McCollum is on an expiring deal. Washington is now expected to take in. Pelicans get younger, possibly more dynamic. I don't know if that's actually like why the trade was made. We'll have to figure that out later. Okay, to continue to the draft. I guess I can just run through the names, and then we'll take turns picking who we want to talk about.
Yeah,
okay?
let's do that.
Here are all the names. Joan Beringer. I've heard Beringer. I've heard Beringer.
Yoann Beringer.
Oh, okay. I've heard
it's
the
Joan.
French. Joan is Yoann Beringer.
Beringer.
18-year-old center.
I did hear both, yeah.
Carter Bryant, the wing out of Arizona. Cedric Coward, the wing out of Washington State. Yegor Demon, the point guard out of BYU. Noah Essenay, the power forward. I don't know what his position is, honestly. I have no idea.
He's a power forward.
Out of Germany. He played professionally in Germany the last year. Jeremiah Fears, point guard out of Oklahoma. I think asterisk on him. He should be in that group of 7 to 8, but there's too many differing opinions on him for me to feel safe that he's going to go that high. Yeah. I expect him to go top 9, but we'll see. He could fall a bit. Kasparas Yakuchonis, point guard out of Illinois. Colin Murray-Boyles, the power forward / center / I don't know what position he plays out of South Carolina. Asa Newell, the center out of Georgia. Derek Queen, the center out of Maryland. Jace Richardson, the combo guard out of Michigan State. Thomas Sorber, the center out of Georgetown. And then Danny Wolf, the center out of Michigan. A few of those guys, to be clear, are ranked in like the high teens, and it would be a surprise and a reach to take them at 10, but we're just including the entire list there. Is there a name or a position that jumps out to you that you want to start with?
Do you want to start with the big? Let's start with the bigs.
Yeah, there's been all this noise, and I got mad about this online, which is always a good thing to do because people are going to react rationally to it, where there were all these reports from the league circles within league circles, league personnel, speaking closely with people directly in the situation with league personnel sources that were saying that the Suns are looking for a center, and this was not just one or two places. It was like a lot of different people mentioning this like buzz about the Suns wanting a center. So that is probably where we should start because your avenues for trade might be better than free agency, especially if you're looking for like a day one starting center.
Yeah.
I think looking at a rookie center to do that is asking for a
Derek
lot.
Lively's don't come along often. Was he the 10th pick, though? He was something.
Do you care at all that they used assets to get centers back to back? This would be the third time in a year that they've used assets to get a center. Do you care about that at all?
No, it's
Does
sunk
it come
cost.
into your thinking?
It's sunk cost at this rate. Nick Richards did not do well. I think you just have to live with it, and he's your backup. And I don't know if that means Oso needs to figure out how to play the 4 or they fight for the backup spot. But yeah, I think you need to just consider it sunk cost.
I agree. At the same time, I would just love to take another position anyway, just because it's not like I think Nick Richards or Oso Godaro will be a starting center, but it just hurts.
We also can assume like position of, that's where it's weird is like we're hearing these reports about position of need in the draft, and it's like that's a dangerous thing for this team, especially because 1, they need talent, and 2, in theory, they should be trying to move a bunch of their guards right now. So I don't know if that pile up really matters, right?
Yeah, you know that I believe in fit, not so much in like constructing a roster,
Right.
but the developmental process that a guard will go through. For example, this is a horrible fit for Jalen Green because it's a horrible fit in general because it's going to have Devin Booker play point guard, which is not going to allow him to. He's going to have to try and Steve Nash this thing by making everyone better. And that is not how you maximize Devin Booker. He can do it. I've been a point book believer for a while, but he can do it. But you need to be maximizing the guy who is far and away your best player. Instead, it's going to be like, okay, can you get Jalen Green comfortable? Can you get him in his spots? Can you do enough of the playmaking, pick and roll ball handler stuff, the second read stuff, so he can kind of be in a position to exploit everything you're setting up for him? And then you've got every other 2 guard that's around here. So that is part of the thing is interesting. Like if they're at 10 and for some reason Conn-Knippel, Trey Johnson, or VJ Edgecombe are there, it's like, okay, now you need to trade like 2 guys for them to even play in the first place, like be in your rotation in the first place. And one of the reasons why I didn't like the Rockets trade was I hate trades that force you to make other trades. Because like this just should have been a 3 or a 4 team deal, sending either Green elsewhere or Brooks elsewhere or both of them elsewhere because of the redundancy. I think that there is value in having Green in his upside. I think there's value in having Brooks, but it applies to the draft as well. Elaborated point here being, I don't think fit really matters here. I just think you take whoever you think has the best chance at being awesome. That's it. I don't really buy into floor too much here. I don't really go that way. So we were mentioning bigs.
Should we just start listing? Should we start with
who do you think is the most interesting to talk about from your perspective?
Derek Queen?
Okay. Derek Queen, center out of Maryland, a little bit undersized, not the best athlete in the world, but he is the most skilled big man in this class. I think the thing that he is going to have to deal with is, 1, there are conditioning questions with him. Like he has some room to grow as an athlete still because of his lack of conditioning. And his moderate disinterest in defense combined with the athleticism, combined with the conditioning, all add up to a guy where I'm concerned about his ability to play defense. It is also a very tight squeeze to be what he is in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, I think that getting not saying he's going to be Jokic, but when you think of skilled big men who handle the ball and they like attack the basket off the dribble, like the way that he's going to, like he's going to create off the dribble. He's not just going to be hub, dribble handoff, short roll stuff. Like he's going to create. He's not going to run ball screens or something. You would like for him to do that later in his career, but right now he's not going to do that. But can you be like, there's only Jokic and Naz Reid for a reason. Like, there's not really anyone else that comes to mind. Like, Sabonis, I guess, but he's still more of a post guy. Şengün, I guess, kind of does that.
Guy,
he does draft, but he's kind of more of a hub.
Queen's more like, he's like an undersized Boogie Cousins with, like, handles are there, right? But how much are his handles going to matter if he is not as explosive as the guy defending him? He's really not as big as the guy who's defending him. Like, if you look at the tape, it's like fascinating because he can face up and do stuff, spin moves between the legs, crosses. But like, again, does that matter if you get to the rim, you get blocked because you aren't a great leaper? Does it matter if you don't have a great jump shot and you're not really threatening from 20 feet, let alone the 3-point line? That's my thing with him. It's like, man, he knows how to play basketball. He has like a natural, I guess, feel. And that's kind of why I use the Boogie Cousins, like skill set with the dribble and feel are there offensively. But if you're not going to make up, if you're going to have to make up for your bad defense with not like a prototypical NBA center game, whether you're talking the stretch or traditional, then I'm a little worried. And like you're making me ask too much of, you got to prove you're not lazy on defense. You got to prove you can actually shoot. Because I don't think the shooting numbers were there and the volume wasn't there on threes.
No.
So then what are you?
And the draft, the people who've been watching him all year have basically said, like, the jumper is not one you stare at and say, oh, this will be functional in like 2 to 3 years.
No.
Someone will mention later, like Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton. Like, actually, like, you watch him shoot. You watch Reno especially shoot from Stanford last year. For 29, excuse me. And, like, they have a projectable jump shot. His, like, Sorber's is not there yet.
It's like Derek Queen has a right leg fading, twisting, like post shot that has gone in for like 3 highlights, but it's like if you're just standing there, I don't know if you can make a bucket wide open. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he has all the crazy shots, but
if he was just quicker on his feet, you mentioned Boogie.
Mm-hmm.
Boogie's a good comp for like the skill set, but Boogie was an incredible athlete. He was so strong. And he was fast, like especially early in his career. Even like the New Orleans year. Remember when him and AD took over the world for like 3 months?
Oh yeah. Sad. That was another injury,
Queen,
wasn't it?
And maybe I'm wrong here, but just watching him in college versus watching him in the pros, I think that the quickness isn't quite there enough for him to be reliable to like create his own shot, create separation like every single time. And the reason why I'm being so hyper specific here with like little details of his game is because I just feel like there's a lot of qualifiers with him, and that's where I'm scared of.
It's weird because he like has really good footwork offensively and like just his
IQ, processing,
tempo with his dribble.
Yeah,
like he can do a lot with his feet and maneuver. But again, it's like I don't know if that translates nor matters if you don't have the bucket getting parts of getting open, I guess. So yeah, I think he's the biggest low ceiling, high floor guy in this range we're going to talk about, I would say.
Yeah, and I didn't have him in my top 5 just because I feel like the qualifiers are too extreme.
Yeah.
I would love him on a blank canvas, if that makes sense. If this roster was actually coherent right now, I would like him in Phoenix.
If he was 3 years ago,
if I knew who like were the 6 or 7 players who were going to play for the Suns next year I'd actually like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know one guy. That's it. Or 2. I know Dunn and Booker still, and that's it. Like they say they're keeping Jalen Green. Let's wait till training camp.
Mm-hmm. Who else? You pick.
Okay, so I'll start with the guy that I have number 1 on the Suns board specifically. Not for me, but number 1 on the Suns board. I have Thomas Sorber there out of Georgetown, and my pitch basically is it's very difficult to like navigate the window of Queen being very good. It's easy to see Sorber's path. Like I can see it.
Yeah.
Him being a great all-around big, it's easy to see. Passing's awesome. I think that Georgetown was a stinker offense. I watched 2 games and it made me want to like it brought me back to the dark days of watching college basketball so much in that kind of way.
They always get the big guy though there.
Yeah, like the dribble handoff, short roll stuff was like occasionally shown, but most of his passing chops were shown when he was doubled in the post, and I would have liked to see it used functionally in other ways.
His reaction time, if he gets post entry and flings it back out or just sees something, is so fast.
And he uses his he has a 7'6" wingspan, so he uses his long arms in a way as a passer. It's really cool. The off the dribble stuff, like all that kind of stuff, I don't know. Like that's where Queen, like yes, like he has the handle and all that kind of stuff. Sorber, I don't know. The appeal here is I loved the way Vicini put it and like the descriptors that he kind of used, because I was like, oh, he's like good as a diver, he's good as a roller, but like Vicini went into like the timing of where he is on his rolls, his hands, he catches everything, how he sets his screen, how he gets out of his screen, his like just feel for that element compared to most bigs is great. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is the NBA. Like, I don't need to explain the value of someone who knows how to set screens and roll already. Like, Nurkic was someone who was still figuring that out in his like 2.5 years into his son's career, however long he was here, 2 years into his son's career. Whereas he's going to have that down right away. On defense, he's very productive. Like the numbers that I found, basically he's like going to be the first round pick in like 20 years to average the things that he did.
Was his stocks like 2.5 or some 3?
I think it was 2 blocks and a steal and a half or something, and then like over 2 assists, 8 rebounds a game. He was just really active defensively. I think the biggest holdup with him and the butt that's coming is his athleticism, and we're using conditioning again, which I don't love. He was listed at 263 and apparently weighs that much. And I say apparently because when you watch him, you kind of think he looks kind of thin. At least his upper body he looks thin, which makes me think that there's like a ton of untapped potential for him, both with strength and for speed. Again, that's us using this as a positive for him, and when we were using it as a negative for Queen.
Because he doesn't have the, again, stuff we don't know.
Yeah.
The things about conditioning, questioning, it's more just like underdeveloped opposed to not working hard.
Sure.
How it comes across.
Would like for him to be a little bit quicker, and that's where maybe with like, you know, cutting down and getting into an NBA conditioning program, he could be a little bit quicker. But for now, he's mostly playing in a drop. But like, I can just see him being a very good pick and roll defender.
Yeah.
And he hangs on switches. He's active off the ball, protecting the rim from the weak side. And then on basketball, on offense, he's just like a very good hub piece and screen setter. And I think that it doesn't need to be more than that. Like, he's been taking threes. If he was healthy right now, he's not. He had surgery in February, missed the rest of the year, didn't do workouts at all. He wants to shoot threes. We'll see. But that's like something to note for 3, 4, 5 years down the line. We know the trap here. DeAndre Ayton took threes at Arizona. That never happened ever. It still hasn't happened in Portland. And then, like, offensively, like, the handle stuff, whatever, we'll see. But I just like the combination of not floor, but the ceiling feels high floory. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's basically my pitch on him and why I'd have him number one. And I think that he could come in, and it would just be a breath of fresh air with everything. Like, Richards is more athletic, but it would be a breath of fresh air in terms of where to be on the floor, being in the right spot, benefiting from spacing elsewhere. Like, he would be much better at that kind of stuff right away.
I think a lot of people talk about feel, and they're like when I use feel for the game with Queen, it's just like he just has this knack that's like playground savvy. He knows how things are moving. He sees things. But with Sorber, it's like he functions like an NBA. Like, I'm going to go to Tristan Thompson comps. I don't know if they measure up similarly, but like Tristan Thompson was never like the longest, fastest. He was pretty big, but he lasted in the league because he just knew where to be. He knew how to set screens, and you see stuff with Sorber where it's like from how big his frame gets when he sets screens, it's like, man, he just gets in the way. Like, doesn't, you know, his legs are spaced out. Probably they're going to draw offensive fouls in the league at some point, but like, he thinks of those things. And then when you look at pick and roll coverage, like, yeah, he's in the drop a lot, and he probably will be in the NBA, but just we talked about, I think when DA during the Suns' final run, he was just being so good at, okay, so the ball handler's getting downhill on you. You're half committed to them and half committed to the roller, and you just know how to confuse the ball handler and outthink them and be a step ahead of like, oh, I'm dropping off. No, I'm not. And they throw a lob and you grab it, you know, stuff like that. And even just like help defense and seeing passing lanes when you're off the ball, he's good at. So that kind of stuff is just like he looks like a vet out there. So I think that, to me, was what's most appealing. And it's like, yeah, if he never develops a three, never develops anything more offensively than just like, yeah, he's a kind of slow rim roller, but he's big so he can get layups, I think he's going to be a quality starter and probably last in the league a long time.
To finish out the positional group, Baron J has been playing basketball for under 5 years, like the sport, and then competitively for, I think, under 3 years. 7-footer, mobile, agile. He does rolling, catching lobs, and blocking shots. Like, that's all he does right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, how patient are you going to be with him? I really wanted to actually put him on the Suns list because as an upside play, he's a phenomenal swing. But you need to have like and this patience, like that word. No,
yeah.
Not going to happen.
And also, like, is he 6'11", 6'10" with the long wingspan? Like, it's just like the physical profile isn't like out of this world where you just see the next Rudy Gobert, I guess. And yeah, it's just raw.
It's more of like the Yves Misi, Derek Lively kind of build where he's like about 7 feet. He's 6'11" with like 7'5" wingspan, which is big. But Danny Wolf out of Michigan. If you want to talk about like handle, creating for others, that kind of thing that we're talking about with Queen, like he's legitimately got like a handle and moves with pace around ball screens. Like he ran ball screens all the time for Michigan, like a guard, truly like a guard. The issue is here, while he has like quicker feet than you would expect, like not an explosive athlete at all, zero. And my biggest concern here is that there's a DeAndre Ayton instance with Dusan Ristic here, where he did not want to play the 5 at Michigan, and they brought in Vlad Golden and got him to play the 5 with Wolf. He has to be a 5 in the NBA. Like, he cannot be anything else than a 5. He's almost a true 7-footer. He's just about there. Almost a true 7-footer. That's kind of a dichotomy there, to say the least. But I think that he is someone where if he could shoot, he would be in the top 10, but he can't shoot. His free throw percentage isn't great. His three-point percentages were never really that good overall. I think that a lot of people have optimism that he is going to shoot, but he just has to. And the whole thing that I wrote about and why I do not have him in the top 5, to be clear, 33.6% from 3, 2.5 a game, 64.5 from the line on 2.7 a game for Michigan. Really great rebounder, but is that going to translate to the pros when he's not an explosive athlete? And then you have to have a role for him. Like, if he's off the ball, what are you doing? So he has to, like, come off the bench and be like your secondary creator almost. It's a very specific thing. Even Minnesota really struggles with getting the most out of Naz Reid with everything that he can do. And it's just not like there's not a fit there for the Suns. It's a reach for him for any team at 10. I get it starting in like the early 20s, and I'd be fine with it at 29. But I think this is way too high.
And if it's kind of the also, I mean, obviously very different athletes and positions are different, but it's kind of the also offensive role, I guess. So it's like, do they need that? What's his defense like? Is it capable?
Can move his feet a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think he can guard 4s or 3s at all.
Yeah.
And like, even if he's playing the 4, it's like you have to be able to shoot. And so he's going to have to accept that he's a 5 in order to get the most out of everything he does. And we'll see if that is the case. I could also see him being really great in the league. If the right team drafts him that utilizes him properly and he grows as a shooter, he could be really, really, really good. Asa Newell is really the only other name here. It's very basic. Like, he's got a ton of versatility potential on both ends of the floor. It's just potential right now. For now, he's a very high motor rebounder.
4 or 5, if you had to.
The question being there is not good. He's a 5, but the question being there is not good. Okay, let's move to wings. I'll do the Colin Murray-Boyles thing because we talk about Gregory checking boxes there.
Everyone's picking him in the mocks, by the way.
He's the guy who checks all the boxes there. They have an obvious opening on the 4 to 5 spectrum of tweener. They need both of those things anyway, and that's where he's going to be. He is incredibly impressive when you watch him. I hadn't seen much of him until a day or two ago, and it's really impressive. Our friend RB on Twitter posted the first 6 minutes of a game against Florida. I put it in my story, and it's a minute and a half long of highlights of his. It's 90 seconds. It's a 90-second highlight reel of his from the first 6 minutes of a game against the best team in the country, and South Carolina was not great. So
yeah, was it 2 years ago?
I want to say maybe it might have been last year. I'm not sure.
I thought it was Florida State. Never mind. I don't know.
Okay. Well, the point being, and the overall pitch here, we didn't really get to what he does. Might be the best defender in the draft. Is someone when you watch him, especially at college, it always sticks out when guys are smarter than everyone else, and he just gets where everything is. I don't even think that he's a good passer, and what I mean by that is the kinds of passes that he makes or the kickouts and stuff. It doesn't evoke a lot of skill, but he just sees everything. So he just makes the pass, and it gets there, and it's fine in the end. Scored a lot. I was surprised to see his numbers scoring, knowing his profile. He scored nearly 17 a game for South Carolina. A lot of that was just being stronger in the post and outworking guys over there. And then defensively, he's just everywhere. I don't know if he's super switchable, but he's just everywhere. And off the ball, on the ball, you're just going to notice him on the floor. You're waiting for the butt. He doesn't shoot. He took 1 3 a game, 26% last year, 71% on nearly 6 free throws a game. So maybe it's there. Do you see the appeal for the Suns drafting a non-shooter for the second straight year, basically? That's my whole pitch here.
Again, it depends, but I think you need either the 4 or the 5 to shoot. One of those. I think you could sell me, but if it's him and Ryan Dunn, then you're... and even Book and Jalen Green, then you need the center to shoot. Again, going back to our start of this podcast, I think you need to take the best talent, and I think there is a decent case to be made that he is the best talent. As far as he does everything else well, I guess, and my big thing on him is the second, and this is why he fits the Gregory Grinders, as you call them. He's the second effort king. You watch all the highlights. I'm chasing someone off the 3-point line and recovering, and there's a couple swings, and then I'm still helping. I do get beat off the dribble a little bit, but I chase down and get a block from behind. It's reading passing lanes as people are coming down the court, stuff like that. So for me, again, a feel guy who it's really good feel and just processing, I guess is a better word for it, especially on defense, and I like that. To your point, though, like, yeah, I think he has to be a 4. He could be the 4, and then you swing him to a backup 5, and then he's switching late in games, and that's really where the role makes sense, where it's like, hey, I don't need you to shoot if we're going small, but obviously that doesn't always work in this league, and you need guys who have that size. So, yeah, I mean, he's positionally a little problematic, and then the shooting just makes that a problem, but I understand why people are heavily having him go at that slot, because I think, again, low floor, I would bet on his IQ, and just failure rate seems low compared to other people in this draft.
I think Carter Bryant is like the biggest lock of the lottery to just be a good, biggest lock of this range of the lottery, to be a good player in the league. There are guys we watch at Arizona, like going back to like Andre Iguodala, but like more recently, TJ McConnell, Solomon Hill, where you just watch them and they're like, you're a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
Like, you just watch the way that they move around the floor, and then everything we hear about him behind the scenes, like, we have like the insider information here for him compared to everyone else. So for all we know, everyone we talked about is an angel and works as hard as everyone. But for him, everyone raves about him behind the scenes, like his approach, everything, just like pro. I think the 3 is going to be very good. I know
it looks good, yeah.
It looks very good. It looks way more polished than it should be. And I say polished, I don't mean like moving around screens, movement, shooting, that kind of stuff. That's something that Bassini hit on in his profile of him, and I totally agree with that. But just like catch and shoot stuff, defenders were there, and he was just, mechanics were sound, all that kind of stuff. I really liked how clean his jumper was. You and I were fans of his passing throughout the year and think that there's 0.5 stuff there, to say the least. Yeah. And I think that there's more stuff to be untapped there, because, again, they had no point guard. They had one guy for offense. They didn't even try to like make him a part of the offense ever in the start of the year. They could have moved him into the starting lineup, given him the KJ stuff. They didn't. That was a mistake. Obviously, we talked about that a lot on Cats Talk over the years. And then defensively, I think he's better than everyone thinks he is, and everyone thinks he's pretty good. I think he's awesome. I think that the way that he gets into guys and the way he moves his feet when he gets into guys is a really rare thing we only see from a couple of defenders in the league right now.
I think I'm lower than you on the defensive profile. I think he's more of a 4 than a 3, and I think that's okay, because the stretching actually makes it possible, and you know, he already has pretty good size. He's like 235, I think, at the combine. If you keep working on that, like, I think you're in a really good spot to play a lot of different things, and even like, hey, if I have to switch on a small backup 5, I'll be fine. 3-point shot for Carter Bryant is like, that's where I'm curious, because it seems super mechanical to me, but it goes down. Like the percentage is pretty good. So I'm not super worried about it. And usually it's like the guys who have funky jumpers that shoot really high percentages, those are the ones you worry about falling off, but it's usually not this way. So I don't know how I feel about it. It's just super mechanical, and he has to be wide open, but like, it should be fine for the role he's going to play. I
was blanking on recent examples, but like Markkanen and Mathurin were the other two where you watched them in college and you're moving like an NBA player. It's just like, you see it sometimes in that way, and it's not even like athleticism, speed, whatever. It's just the cadence to the way they play. It's a really weird thing if you
also
see it,
the just maturity there, as far as
it's basketball maturity, basically.
Yeah. Or like you know, you always have the rookie.
I just did the Gregory basketball maturity.
No, like, there is something to say for, like, you can tell, oh, the freshman is getting down on himself for having a rough game or missing the shot or not. Like, he just looks like stone cold confident, and not like playing out of his mind. He's, you know, did he get in foul trouble a couple times, but it's just your classic college stuff. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, I don't know. He's a super safe pick, and that's one, again, where it's like maybe the safest pick after the top 5 picks that I can say, like, I know he's going to be in the NBA a long time, but I don't know how high his ceiling is. But also,
he might just be your third or fourth wing if it doesn't go well. But I just
also,
don't see him out of the league.
Those are super, super valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like he's going to make $200 million. Like I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah.
You know when you see a movie and you ask someone if they've seen it, and they say, "Yeah, I've seen it," and you're like, "It was good, right? I liked it." And they're like, "It's the best movie I've seen in the last 5 years." And you're like, "Okay, I didn't love it that much, but it's good." That's how I feel about Cedric Coward, where it's like,
okay,
I like him, and I think that the upside thing I get. And the 3-and-D profile I get, but I don't understand like having him like top 5 or top 10 like on a board. It's a bit much. So if you're not familiar, like the brief story here because it's a cool story. Played D3 at Willamette. His coach, future coach in the Big Sky Conference. Shout out to Montana State. Was watching one of his like old coaching friends play at the D3 level, like supporting his friend or whatever. And when they were playing against Willamette, and he's like, "Who's that guy?" So then he recruited him to Eastern Washington. Coward plays there 2 years. Everyone who watches him in the Big Sky is like, "Why is this guy here? What doesn't make sense?" Riley brings him to Washington State. He only plays in 6 games, but in those 6 games, it's like even at that level that he's playing against. And the level, to be clear, it was their non-conference schedule. The only game they played
for a Pac-12 school. That's the new Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly. That against anyone half good was Iowa, and he didn't really play great in that game. But you watched like his maturity level with like just how he played. Again, it's one of those Carter Bryant things where like the way that he used his body, the way that he got into his shot, some of like the choices that he made on the floor with the ball. It's a lot there where I can see the upside, but it was just in such a very specific environment that it seems like just too much to bet on. And the 3-and-D profile is like one where it's kind of Desmond Bainey for me.
Without a bunch of TCU time, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of Desmond Bainey.
Yeah, I mean, I think
where I see him as like a top 10, top 15 guy, but as like I get there's upside there, but is there a ton? Is there like he's going to be a can't miss guy? I don't know. And I'm ready to be wrong on that because a lot of smart people really like him.
Well, like what's the offensive profile with him for people who haven't watched? Like, how does he just contribute in the NBA?
It's kind of book-esque just with the, again, not like overall talent or whatever, but the way he does it, like physical, mid-range.
Yeah, not
gets into guys.
Crazy athlete, but knows just
kind of like I can't remember how Russillo and Vicini put it, but like Russillo like brought up this one example of like him like knowing he could score on a guy in the post, but then taking one more dribble just to kind of humiliate the guy a little bit. And by all accounts, seems like a nice kid or whatever, but it's just like he has that kind of mentality on the floor. But yeah, I don't really know. He's a little bit small for the kind of wing that the Suns would want, basically. Like, it's getting a little bit too redundant again, so that kind of factors in for me a little bit. I got to admit, it kind of does. Noah Senge, like, I just don't know. I'm comfortable raising my hand and saying I don't know.
He's like a KD build type person.
Well,
who does not play much.
Yeah, no one is really a KD build. I would lighten that up a little bit. But he's a 7-footer who has mobility and can handle the ball a bit
and shoot.
Yeah, like modern
he's
power
really
forward.
Skinny, yeah.
It's an awesome idea. All he does right now is like get to the free throw line. That's pretty much all he does. Yeah. Everything else is theoretical. Someone's going to take him in the lottery because of all those tools, and if he works out,
good job.
There's your top 3 guy that I was talking about. That's him. Doesn't make sense for the Suns, obviously, with the developmental track record that you would need to kind of harness him. If he goes to Oklahoma City, I am terrified.
Who's trying to move up, apparently, by the way, and they're at 15 right now, and they have assets to move up.
No one should trade with them.
Not do that.
Don't do it, including the Suns. There was like it was Fisher's story where they mentioned like moving from 10 to 15.
Yeah.
No.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just take your guy at 10 anyway. I mean, you're getting future assets. I guess the pitch is like 15, 24. It's like, are you going to have 3 first-round picks? I don't know. There are ways to do it, and we could elaborate on it, but we're already kind of going along.
Thomas Sorber is going to fall to 15, and Thomas Sorber is like your guy.
Then you might as well. But we're just kind of poking fun at like the idea of like helping Oklahoma City, and it's like helping. Like whenever it was a thing in baseball forever, real ball heads will know this. When you like trading with the Tampa Bay Rays was just like, don't do that, because they were just always like onto something with every trade that they did. I don't know if that's still the track record, but it was a couple of years ago.
They're on a heater. Yeah.
To wrap, this is a very good point guard class. It's very good in this range, I'll say. There really isn't one unless you want to count Dylan Harper. There's Yakuchonis out of Illinois. There's Fears out of Oklahoma. And there's Demon out of BYU. I really like Yakuchonis. I have him third. I had Bryant second, him third. I have Fears 4, and I have Murray-Boyles 5. On that top 5, I think Yakuchonis just has the mix of high floor, high ceiling. I don't really understand why some experts don't have him in the top 10 because he's someone that I watched quite a bit, and it's kind of confusing to me why the appeal of that mix isn't there. I just think the value of his pull-up jumper and his step back is immense, and like Fears just can't shoot. Demon just can't shoot. Like a lot of these like scorers, like Ace Bailey is the guy who's looked at as like the guy who can like create his own shot and all that kind of stuff. Flag can do some of that too. But like Yakuchonis doesn't get mentioned in that group for some reason when he is a guy who gets to his step back all the time. Like, yes, he relies on getting left, getting to the step back, all that kind of stuff. But the playmaker that he is, Demon is the best passer in this draft. Fears is the best create separation, handle, that stuff, shiftiness kind of guy in the draft. Yakuchonis is just the best playmaker, pick and roll ball handler overall in the entire class because of the way that he navigates stuff, the passes that he finds, getting 2 or 3 steps ahead. Now, I say this with an asterisk, being he had a bunch of games where he had 5, 6, 7 turnovers, and a lot of teams are going to point at that and be like, no, thank you, and move on. He's 18. He's a freshman. Like there are some like benefits he doesn't get. I was reading David Aldridge does this great story every year where he just talks to executives and scouts and you get like their opinion on it. And just every single scout was like, turns it over too much, probably a backup.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He's big. Like the playmaker and like being able to set up his playmaking with the 3, I think it's so obvious to see how he's a very good NBA player. And even if the shot isn't as good as I think it is, and he's like a weak defender, he's still such a good playmaker that I think he's at least like a competent third guard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll say I'm lower on him than you, and a lot of it is the athleticism and the handle, where if you're going to be a full-time heavily used starting point guard, like a lot of the turnovers I think were just pocket picks where you get a good athlete on him and he's trying to do too much. Again, you can say that's inexperience and you just get rid of the ball, bud. Don't do that. So that can be cleaned up. And on that note, I think just the handle and the athleticism, again, might limit how much he can get downhill in the NBA and really attack. But that being said, like, there's a reason Ty Jerome, I think, is a good example. He took a little bit of time, but he was that guy with the Suns where I'm like, that's not going to work out, and I'm wrong now because, like, when you're that good of a smart passer and creator, even if you don't have the athleticism or the handle, you're gonna be good if once the game slows down. So I think that's just the thing with him. And yeah, to your point, back on the like, finally a guy with a nice jump shot, and we're not giving him enough credit and saying, hey, you can move the ball really well and you can shoot jumpers and make it. Yeah, you're gonna be fine. Yeah, maybe you're not gonna be the best defender, but if you can hang, I think he can hang. He'll be fine. So yeah, I agree that if he's on the board, I would be fine if the Suns took him for that at that spot because I think he's that talented and it would add a lot.
He shot 32 from 3, to be clear, so that's why a lot of people don't see the shooting that I do.
It looks good, though.
It looks great, and he took a ton of bad shots, like a ton. Illinois didn't have a creator until Will Riley, another creator, another person who could create their own shot, get downhill, be a playmaker. Kylan Boswell went there from Arizona and did well, but he wasn't like setting guys up and all that kind of stuff like the way that Yakuchonis would. So I think his shooting is going to be a plus in the league. Would you rather take the risk of Fears or Demon?
Demon is scary to me.
Demon is scary because he shot under 30 from 3, and there's real concerns about his ability to shoot at all. And then the wild, eclectic nature that he would play with occasionally was mixed with like a lack of aggression scoring the ball, and it's just this very odd mix where if harnessed, he could be the best player in this class.
Yeah.
Like he's a 6'10"
like
point guard. He's actually a 6'10" point guard.
If you're twice as aggressive, if you're him, you get so many more opportunities to make the pass, right? Like even if you're just driving and attacking, and the problem with him is like he also doesn't have the handles, being like that big at 6'9", 6'10" as a point guard to like break guys down. So that for me worries me about like if you can't dribble and you can't shoot, but you pass well, like what's the point in some respects?
Fears is an awful defender. He was the worst defender I watched. Just didn't care. Which I don't know if that's better or worse than trying on defense and being bad. Mm-hmm. you fall into that trap all the time where you're like, oh, when he tries, he's fine. So he'll be teams, and then guys just don't care about defense anyway in the league. Really quick, handles great. I think the thing that I don't like about him, and like the defense, the shot, whatever, if he was a better finisher around the rim, or if he just was more composed more consistently, like it seems like he's more out of control. And Yakuchonis is the guy who actually had more turnovers, but when I watched Fears, it was more like you're getting out of control, whereas Yakuchonis just like misread the situation and made a mistake, whereas Fears is like creating the mistakes for himself, if that makes sense. With that said, if he shoots the ball, he's going to be an all-NBA point guard.
Yeah.
So that would be a guy that I would keep in mind for the Suns. Okay, I think that's everyone in that group. We didn't mention Jace Richardson, but that would be way too high for him at 10. At 29, it kind of makes sense, or it makes a lot of sense, because I actually think the kid's pretty good, but whatever. Let's rapid fire through a couple of names that we like anywhere in the draft before we go.
Okay.
You want me to start?
Please.
Nick Clifford out of Colorado State is the most like good 8-year pro that I've ever seen, and him at 29 would be awesome, but he's probably going to go. It's very Tristan.
He's in the middle of their two picks.
It's very Tristan Da Silva-y from last year, where if he's there at 29, that's an absolute home run. But he won't be.
I want to go.
Yep.
Ryan Kalkbrenner. I'm not like the biggest fan of his, but there's a lot of like at 29 he could be there, and dude, just like you know what you're getting. It kind of the. Was he at school 5 years? It feels like he was in school forever at Creighton. You know what you're getting, like shot blocking. Like, does he play more than 20 minutes a game? I don't know. Does it matter? Because 20 of those minutes, teams are not scoring at the rim. Yeah.
It's very easy to see how he is a good NBA player. It's one of those where it's like easy to see. But do you want him out? It's like once you're talking about like, oh, could he survive in the playoffs? It's like, I don't know, man. He could just be a good NBA player that's selected in the 30s or the 20s.
Yeah.
And that's a really good start. We talked about it on last episode. I really like Fleming. Big fan of Rayno for like anyone. I like Fleming specifically for the Suns. I like Clayton specifically for the Suns. And something we didn't mention with the point guards, you might look at Green, Booker, Beal, and be like, how do they get on the ball? Well, you need someone else to actually like set the table, run offense, and be a point guard. And like it's asking a lot out of a rookie. But if it's Green and Booker starting and they do get rid of Beal, there's plenty of room for a backup rookie point guard to get touches on the ball, relieve the stress off of those guys, and also bring a playmaking dynamic that the roster doesn't have. That's the short term. And then long term, you get the long term guy to go alongside Booker and whatever you do with Jalen Green, Adu Thero will probably be who they pick at 29, and I'm hoping they do because he's incredibly exciting to watch. Incredible, probably the best athlete in the draft. Motor is really good. He was everywhere. I really liked him. Jameer Watkins is a really good swing that I like if he's somehow there in the 50s. He won't be, but was a bucket getter, but then did some defense stuff. I talked about him on our previous episode a bit. Anyone else that you like in the 40s, 50s range? Because they have 52 and 59. They're probably going to try and move up a little bit.
I'm just on the Cam Jones. If they don't get a point guard, give that a run. Because I always just like the guys who are at school a while. They played multiple roles, kind of the Mikal Bridges. Like, yeah, you're not the star to start. Played alongside Tyler Kolek, and then once he left and did not get drafted by the Suns, Cam Jones just took over and was like, okay, by the way, I'm a really good point guard too. I'm here now.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
RJ Lewis Jr. at St. John's is really fun if someone can just like get him to chill out. And even if he doesn't chill out, there's Dylan Brooks kind of potential there, not with like the weird stuff he does on the floor, but just with how in your face he is with everything. Really like Elijah Martin as a short guard swing in the 50s, and a bucket getter I really enjoyed seeing in the Big Ten last year was Bryce Williams out of Nebraska. I don't really see him in like the 30s, 40s per se, but like as a swing towards the end of the round, if you want to get a wing who can do a little bit of scoring, I like him.
Do you want to give your Raynaud pitch?
Raynaud. Maxime Raynaud. I think it's like the reasons why you like Kalkbrenner, and like Kalkbrenner is like 5 times the defender he is. That's just how good Kalkbrenner is, but very big, drop big that can do the diving stuff and finish really well around the rim and then also shoot threes. The only problem for him was that he actually can create off the dribble, pass a bit. I think he's a better passer than everyone gives him credit for. But when he rejected dribble handoffs and dribbled a bit, he was always one dribble shy. I think he was always scared of turning the ball over. And if he just took one more dribble, he would get to the rim because he put his shoulder
It's a
into
long
someone,
boy, yeah.
and he's very long and can get to the rim, but he just took a bunch of weird 8 to 12 footers, and he would need to get that cleaned up. I think he would get that cleaned up. He's one of my favorite guys in the outside the top 15. I would probably, if I don't have a board made or whatever, but he would probably be in the top 15 of mine. I like him.
All right. That's all I got.
All right, that's it. I don't know what the plan is for tomorrow. I will say, if you're hearing this before the draft, I'm on Burns and Gambo from 2 to 4, and then it'll be Gambo, Vince Marotta, and I from 4 until probably 6 when they take the number 10 overall pick when they make their selection. Then it'll be Luke Lipinski and I, and then we'll sprinkle, you'll be in there a bit, and then Mitch Vareldis is in there a bit. We might just try and do like a Empire of the Suns on the air with Luke or something instead of doing a post-pod thing. But we'd miss 29. We could maybe do it on Thursday. We'll have something for sure on pick 10, absolutely, that night on this feed. As far as like 29, the second round, and like rounding that out, that might be later in the week. We'll see how the week goes.
We'll see how you're doing by then. Might be a little sleepy.
Not feeling the best on a Tuesday, which is never good, but we move through draft week and it's great. It's super exciting, and I believe we've got everything lined up right now for me to go to Summer League, which is fun because that's where I kind of got my start in a couple of different ways, and I haven't been back in quite a while.
Let me end the podcast on a really positive note until they trade that number 10 pick for some veteran.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that. All right, goodbye, everyone.